Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Picture this. You're sitting eating dinner in a restaurant with some of your friends on a Friday night. You're deep into conversation when in the distance you hear shouting. You look up and you see a group of demonstrators walking down the street yelling and holding flags that say Black Lives Matter. The group is loud, but you don't have a problem with what you think they are saying. Of course Black Lives Matter. You agree with that completely. It seems obvious to you. You're against racism. You've never mistreated anyone because of his race. You're not a bad person. So at first it doesn't occur to you that this mob of angry people might be angry at you. Why would they be? But then suddenly the mob is there, at your table, screaming in your face, throwing chairs, smashing glasses, sweeping cutlery to the floor, threatening to kill you. Within seconds, you're running for your life. That happens in our country now. It happened this weekend in Rochester. Here's what it looked like. What did those people eating dinner in Rochester do wrong? No one ever said. No one ever does. Or how about this elderly couple in Pittsburgh? They tried to get something to drink at an outdoor cafe over the weekend. Watch what happened.
Well, and the white people that built the system set against mine. You all
F you, old man, screams the BLM protester and gives him the finger. A female protester strides up and guzzled the old woman's drink. Why? Because she can. The ultimate humiliation. So what exactly did the elderly couple do to deserve the abuse you just saw? What was their crime? If you listen to BLM, you know the answer. They live in America. They work and pay taxes. They support a system that systematically murders people. In effect, they're war criminals, guards in the world's largest concentration camp. That's BLM's position. Increasingly, it is the position of the Democratic Party and the position of our compliant news media. You hear it everywhere. What's amazing is how cynical it is. People who say this don't even pretend to believe it. They ignore their own slogans. If you really thought America was a white supremacist dystopia, a place where people of color get murdered just for going outdoors, as the Democratic platform suggests is true, then you probably wouldn't encourage millions of non-white immigrants to move here. You'd be too worried about their safety. Bringing in people from Africa, for example, would be tantamount to premeditated murder. You wouldn't want that on your conscience. Of course, in real life, it's all fake. The opposite is true, in fact. Africans thrive in this country. Nigerian immigrants to the United States earn more money on average than native-born Americans. Nigerian immigrants are also more likely to get college degrees than people who grew up here. If what BLM is telling us is true, how could this happen? Well, because they're lying. For the overwhelming majority of lower-income Americans, melanin is not the main barrier to advancement. Education and social class are. For poor people, the main problem is money. It always has been. They don't have enough of it. Their kids have even less. This is pretty obvious if you think about it or if you look at the numbers. But a ruling class doesn't want you to think about it. They don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to talk about economics because they fear it might cost them something. So instead, they promote race conflict in order to divert our attention from their theft. These riots have very little to do with racial oppression. Look at who's rioting. Do they look oppressed to you? Last week, the NYPD arrested a group of people at a demonstration held by a group called the New African Black Panther Party. That's African with a K to suggest maximum revolutionary fervor. Here on the screen, you'll see the mugshots of the people who got arrested in New York. The first thing you'll notice, while they were representing what they called the new African Black Panther Party, none of these people is African. They look like affluent American kids, in fact, and indeed they are. One of them is the daughter of an architect and a child psychiatrist in Manhattan. She's got a second home in Connecticut. Another is a fine arts major who used to work for Pepsi. His last known address was a high-income neighborhood in Florida. Another one of the rioters spent his summers jetting back and forth to Europe. Another has a modeling contract. Yet another is a student at a place called Sarah Lawrence University. That's a holding pen for the dimmer offspring of our leadership class. That school costs almost $60,000 a year. If you go online, you can find pictures of this young committed revolutionary singing show tunes at her local yacht club on Long Island. So these kids are not impressed. It's likely none of them have ever met an oppressed person, except maybe on junior year abroad. So why are they breaking things and hurting people? Because they've been brainwashed into hating our country and hating themselves by a corrupt education establishment. They're also decadent and bored, like so many pampered children. After half a year of authoritarian lockdowns, they're looking for something more interesting to do than getting high and watching Netflix. And also, for many of them, underneath it all, they are frustrated, and rightly so, by vanishing economic opportunity. They sense correctly they will never be as successful as their parents' generation. For them, the American dream has died, so they no longer believe in America. All of that combined probably accounts for the radicalism you're watching. But we don't need to know that because we don't need to understand why rioters riot in order to oppose rioting. We should always oppose rioting, no matter what its justification. These are the forces of chaos and destruction. They are working to tear down our country. That's all we need to know. If we care about our families and our civilization, about the future of our descendants, we have got to fight them like everything depended on it, because everything does depend on it. Quote, when compared with the suppression of anarchy, Teddy Roosevelt once told the Congress, every other question sinks into insignificance. The anarchist is the enemy of humanity, the enemy of all mankind. His is a deeper degree of criminality than any other. Roosevelt wrote that in 1908. It was just 7 years after an anarchist assassinated the President of the United States, William McKinley. He was Roosevelt's running mate. In some ways, 1908 isn't so different a period in American history as the one we're living through right now. In 1908, America was fast becoming an unstable country. Mass immigration had made the society far less cohesive. New technology completely upended the way people lived and the way they worked. There was a recession underway in 1908, coupled with high unemployment. People were angry at the banks, at big business, angry at capitalism itself. And there was also racial unrest. During one race riot in 1908 in Springfield, Illinois, mobs burned buildings and attacked citizens in their homes. More than a dozen people died. 1908 was a chaotic moment, so not surprisingly, some people became radical. They called themselves anarchists. They believed in violence. In February of that year, an anarchist shot a priest to death during communion at church in Denver. He cited no reason for doing it. He just said he hated Christianity. A few weeks later, another anarchist tried to assassinate the chief of police of Chicago at his home. Later that month, anarchists staged a deadly riot in a park in Manhattan. One of them threw a bomb at police officers. Quote, I came to the park to kill police, he later said. I hate them. Throughout 1908, there was at least one anarchist bombing every month of the year in the city of New York. Sound familiar to you? Then, as now, the radical left leveraged economic anxiety to force their program on America. Anarchists attacked cops and clergy in public buildings precisely because these were the symbols of permanence and authority. They were the symbols of power greater than the mob, so they must be destroyed. The anarchist goal was to topple the nation itself. Teddy Roosevelt knew that. He understood that systems that tolerate anarchy don't last long. If mobs are allowed to attack the police, why do I have to pay taxes? Why do I have to obey traffic laws? Or for that matter, obey the FDA or the EPA or the local health department or anyone else who claims to be in charge? People quickly start thinking like that when anarchists are allowed to have their way. And why wouldn't they think like that? Once they do, things fall apart fast. Society itself was at stake in 1908, as it is now, and Teddy Roosevelt understood it. Our leaders, Democratic leaders, don't understand that. Or more likely, they don't care. Chaos serves their purposes. Consider Barack Obama. Obama is a smart man. He's a very gifted speaker. Many people found him inspiring, and it's understandable why. But when the fog lifted after Obama's 8 years in office, what was left? A dying middle class, a nation more radically divided by race and by income, a population so hostile to their political leaders that they elected Donald Trump president. By any measure, Barack Obama left a wake of destruction behind him. In the end, one of the relatively few who prospered was Barack Obama himself. Obama and his wife became unimaginably wealthy, legitimately rich, with huge estates in different parts of the country. Where did Barack Obama get all that money? No one asks. We're too busy hating each other. Obama stokes that hatred because it helps him. Here he is at the Democratic Convention this summer.
Americans of all races joining together to declare, in the face of injustice and brutality at the hands of the state, that Black Lives Matter. No more, but no less. To the young people who led us this summer, telling us we need to be better, in so many ways, you are this country's dreams fulfilled.
The young people who led us this summer. It's hard to believe Barack Obama said that. Obama has an internet connection. He sees the news. He knows that the same young leaders he is promoting on stage burned buildings, looted stores, murdered people. Obama is smart enough to know that what the mobs are doing isn't bringing people together, just the opposite. Riots don't heal wounds, they create them. The violence that Barack Obama's youth brigades have unleashed on this country, if anything, increased racial bigotry and distrust. The riots have certainly accelerated residential segregation as higher income people flee the racially diverse cities for sedate monochromatic destinations like Martha's Vineyard, where, by the way, Barack Obama himself lives. Like any good arsonist, Obama was sure to exit the building before he lit the fire. Someday, Obama and many leaders like him may flee farther than that. An island off the coast of Massachusetts won't be far enough. They'll be in Switzerland by then, or Austria, or New Zealand, or somewhere where they won't have to live with the consequences of the society that they created. But for the rest of us who plan to stay, we have no choice. We have to fight. Anarchism goes by many names. Right now it's called Antifa and BLM. But the poison is always the same, and the consequences of imbibing it never change. If we're going to survive as a country, we must defeat this.